Welcome to the ManXchange podcast hosted by Coach Alfonso Short. Join him each week on Saturday mornings as he engages with his guests and they discuss men leading, boys thriving, and communities winning. The conversation is underway.
Good day to everyone. I hope that you've had an excellent week and you're having a great day at this time. Today, we're going to have a special guest that I can't wait to introduce him to you. I have not met him before, but just in a few minutes of small talk, I know it's going to be an illuminating conversation today. I am your host, Coach Alfonso Short on ManXchange, where we lead, thrive, and win. I hope that you will share this link with other people. That is YouTube ManXchange. This show is recorded on produced at 11 o'clock Central Standard Time on Saturdays, as well as a replay on radio at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sundays on Conversation Radio Network, and that can be found on conversationsradio.com. I want today to introduce to you an individual who has a great story to share and some very serious life lessons that we could likely take heed to and pass on to another generation of men and just our families and community. His name is Mr. Soul Amin Ra. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
All right. We just drop a few small nuggets of just introducing yourself to us, and then we will get into our conversation.
Okay. I'm born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. I went to Dunbar High School, and, Paul Laurence Dunbar, just knowing his history intrigued me about poetry. And, I grew up in the mid 80s. So hip hop and rap was the culture. So I developed an appreciation for words and wordsmithship during that time. And I was the product of a single parent. She had 4 children. I was the third of 4. Grew up during the war on drugs, the crack epidemic. I got caught up in that, but I wanted to graduate from my mother. So I straddled the fence with, the street life and academic life. When I graduated at 18, I was involved in a homicide and was sentenced to life in prison. And I served 18 years before I won my freedom. I came home with a blind determination to build my life on the gifts that God had given me, writing, speaking. I was a barber since I was a kid, so cutting hair. And so I got my barber's license. I wanted to be self-employed. I wasn't expecting nobody to hire me with a felony on my record. Right. So my mentality was to hire myself. I got my barber's license, got blessed with an opportunity to open up a holistic spa in a hospital. I got contracted by Kettering Health Network to open up this spa. And so I did chair massage and aromatherapy for the nurses and cut the doctor's hair. And when I got that blessing, it was interesting because I contacted the guy. He told me, like, man, I want you to cut my doctor's hair. He was like, this half hour I spend with you, it rejuvenates me. And I thought he was just talking jive, So that Monday, his secretary set up a meeting. I went to the hospital, and half hour into it, he opened up the checkbook and said, hey, do it. And I came home, excited, but kind of nervous because I'm like, man, I got this felony on my record. And if they find out that I have this felony,
right,
I might fumble the blessing. So I texted him and, met him for a cocktail and, told him my story. I said, listen, man, I have a felony on my record. He brushed it off. I said, no, I was incarcerated for a homicide. He brushed it off. He said, so listen. He said, for the half hour I come see you, everything that stresses me out is erased. I leave you looking good, feeling good. My battery is recharged to handle the rest of my day. I want that experience for my doctors in-house. You're going to build it, period. And that was God telling me, like, man, quit sweating that felony. You know what I mean? You just do the work on you and I got the rest of it. So that's my story in a nutshell.
And you hit it because I was leading into this, and I want you to say your part first. Is that what is the title of your book, and why did you decide to write it?
The title of my book is Spoken Soul, A Way with Words. I decided to write, I wrote it during the pandemic because society was locked down and incarceration is something I was very familiar with. So I wasn't panicking, and time is money in my mind. So I'm like, how can I maximize off this opportunity? So I said, if we're locked down for a year and I write a page a day, that leaves me with 365 pages that I can crunch down to maybe 200 pages and have a comprehensive coffee table book. So that was my mentality going into it. But my writing was enhanced through the incarceration experience because it was my way of staying in touch with the real world. So one of the ways that I spent all of my time studying, you know, philosophy, religion, history. And the way I process information is through sharing it in conversation. So writing love letters and sharing the information that I was studying was what became this book.
Okay. Now, and now leading to the power of your words and questions I have, because I was like, wow, just your short bio clip was interesting and amazing. I said, so what role did poetry and writing play in you maintaining your humanity during those 18 years of incarceration? Because I know it wasn't easy.
Yeah, it was definitely therapy. It was again my way of absorbing the information that I was studying. It was my way of enlightening the women that I was writing. I was a pen pal artist, and when I first realized I was a writer, I wrote a letter to a young lady, and she shared it with a friend, and she was like, "Girl, he copied that from a Donald Goins book." So, you know, I chuckled, but I was flattered, you know, and I knew then, like, I'm on to something.
Right.
And in conversation with people, like the subtitle of the book is A Way with Words. Every time I speak with people, they be like, man, you know, you have a way with words. And so that became the brand.
Okay. So did your creative voice change as you transition from surviving to really becoming actively protesting the justice system that because you were rehabbing? Many people were not in rehab. It seems like you made a decision you were going to rehab during this period, and your protest was to become a better person, a better man.
Absolutely. So, yeah, because I had two. I had daddy issues. My father wasn't there for me as a child, and I vowed to never be like him. And then when this happened, I had two girls pregnant. So here I was repeating the cycle of being an absentee father, and I felt like if I was taking a good guy away from my children, I had to bring them back Superman. Okay. And so all of the gifts that I have, I focused on and cultivated during that time of incarceration.
Okay. I know I'm an African-American male, and so I've not been shielded from having trouble. I just fortunately didn't have the type of trouble that you did to begin incarcerated with anything. But I know friends of mine and peers that were formerly incarcerated, they talk about using a rhythm to cope, whether it's exercise, writing, or education, what they're doing now that they should have been doing when they were not in the situation. But what was the internal rhythm that kept you anchored while you were locked away?
I call it holistic fitness, mind, body, and spirit. You know, exercising my mind through study. On the recreational side, I would play chess. Physical fitness kept me, you know, because it's a predatory environment. You know, it's strong over the weak. You know.
Yeah.
and having a relationship with spirit, because I questioned religion when I first became incarcerated. I was like, can't no God exist if this is happening to me? Because I knew some diabolical cats in the streets, and here I was, a good guy, straddling the fence, and this took place. And so, yeah, that was my rhythm. It's my rhythm to this day.
And what was the hardest emotional hurdle you had to clear during your time of incarceration?
Forgiving my father, forgiving my mother, and forgiving myself for not being there for my children.
Mm-hmm. And when did you realize that your story was bigger than your own experiences, and it prompted you to step into the role of a writer and activist, so to say? And I say that slash activist because your story is definitely a motivation to others to keep the good fight of faith, no matter what their situations are.
Repeat the question for me, sir.
Uh, how did you transition into knowing that I'm going to say it this way, that you were a motivating factor, and what prompted you to step into this role when you were writing your book?
I think it was just in me. Like, it was like writing is a passion for me. It's every day. Like, every day I have an experience, a conversation, or an interaction with a person that, when I have my morning coffee, I reflect on that conversation, and it most times it compels me to pick up my pen and write, like, every day. Like, it's in me. Like, so it wasn't like it doesn't feel like it's something I stepped into. It felt like it was a downloaded program in my spirit.
I feel it. Voice. I feel it talking to you, brother. That you definitely you're gifted. You're God gifted with a spirit that makes a difference in your ability to be able to translate and communicate that into the lives of other people. It has to be dynamic because I'm motivated by now engaging with you and knowing just a snippet of history of what you've been through, and listening to how you've been blessed to give back, and how you had the opportunity, like you said, that with your record, you likely wouldn't have anyone that would even consider sitting at the table with you to even talk to you about what you plan to do. But your plan was already that I know I gotta serve myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I gotta create something I can do with the skills I have. And because you did that and prepared yourself, more opportunities opened up for you to be in business, because you were always business minded, because you couldn't be out on the streets doing anything and not it. To those who don't know the street, it's not somewhere you promote to go. It's not a visit to Wonderland, but you have to have a business mind to survive.
Absolutely.
No matter what city, state, or where you are, particularly being of African American descent. That says a lot. So what do you think about men who you have engaged with, and what do you think you can do to inspire or give them confidence that, hey man, if I could write a book, why don't you give it a shot?
Just live my truth, like, I pride myself on being a Black man, and I have sharp criticisms about the culture, the way young men dress, the tight jeans, the saggy pants, the sparkly belts, and so rather than criticize them through words, I dress how I dress and walk how I walk, and everywhere I go, I'm noticed. You know what I mean? The young brothers notice me. I never, like when I was incarcerated, I carried myself the same way, even wearing state blues. I never asked for the brothers to call me Brother Soul. You know, they called me Brother Soul because I was Soul Brother. You know, it's like that's Soul Brother. You know what I mean? Like, so I bring that same demonstration out here to my peers, and a lot of people know me in the city,
Yeah.
and they know my story, and so the book is just another conversation piece for brothers to share. Like, oh, that's Soul. He wrote a book. You know, and I encourage everyone to tell their story, but a lot of people out here are self-unaware, you know,
Yeah.
and they're trapped in this cycle of, you know, hustling to pay bills or working to pay bills. You know, they're caught up in capitalism and they don't have time to reflect on self. But yeah, I just live my truth, man, and walk my walk and hope that people see my light and get inspired.
Well, you lead by example, and those who listen or care to know, then you share the experience of why you are who you are now. If you can reflect back, and I titled this with getting my questions together for you: freedom, advocacy, in the future. What was the very first thing you did or felt the moment you walked out of prison as a free person?
It was like, it felt like it's application time. You know, everything that I've studied, everything that I've learned, it's time to apply. And I couldn't wait to start applying because I had a lot of brothers who was telling me when I would tell them like my aspirations, they'd be like, Soul, it's not that easy, man. And I'm like, why isn't it that easy? You know, if I know that I'm a gifted writer, if I know I'm a gifted speaker, if I know that I could take my prison workout and bring it to society and make money, because back then it was like P90X and all of these other fitness programs. I'm like, that's just a fancy prison workout. You know, we doing that just because we get tired of doing regular push-ups, so we get creative with them.
Right.
And this guy then made a whole video and he making millions.
Well,
so I'm like, everything that I'm good at, I'm going to apply. I had no doubt in my mind. I'm like, there's nothing you can tell me, you know, like, to make it seem hard.
Well,
That idea never existed.
That's interesting, Mr. Saul, because you lead me to a question that I was say, I don't know if I'll ask him this, but how has the transition from the highly structured environment, which is prison, which people feel is highly structured, to the unpredictability of the outside world, how has it impacted your daily life in your arts and craft that you study?
It goes back to that thing you call the rhythm. And I look at society as a macrocosm of prison. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a structure, a day-to-day routine. You know what I mean? You just have more choices out here, but it's still prison, you know? Right. But no, I live my life, man. I live my life. I don't worry about obstacles. You know, that's the benefit of having the prison experience behind me, because I've seen the darkest of darkness. So out here, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easy, man. You know, once you have your rhythm.
Right.
Yeah.
So as we get near to closing, and I could go on forever with you, how do you channel the trauma of your conviction into your speaking engagements and advocacy work without it becoming overwhelming?
Again, if it's that download thing that I feel like I was given this life experience to share with people. You know, I was given a light. Even when I was a ghetto boy, I had a light. I would walk in a room and people would notice me, and I never understood what that meant. I just knew I never wanted to look like and dress like the people around me. I didn't never follow trends. So I was blessed with the gift of individuality, a sense of individuality and personal purpose. And that's what I share in my day-to-day walk in life.
Yeah, and that's the power of persuasion that you're anointed with. and you use it for a positive as you went through your trials and tribulations. What would be the biggest impact of your story, your book, that you would hope that people would benefit from and learn and draw more interest, not only to buy your book, but to do a self-awareness check on themselves?
I think that's it. The book, each page is structured to just make you question your convictions. Like, I question everything. So like the idea of monogamy, I question it, and I explore stories that question it. And these are stories that everyone relates to, whether it's the man who cheated or the wife who got cheated on and stayed. Why did you stay? And like, I inspire people to question their reality. And my hope is that everyone becomes the leading role in their story, the star player.
We all have a story, and it's worth telling the story. I believe that. That's a personal conviction. And the thing is that when we say that, some people may have doubt or be ashamed of something. Say, tell your story.
Yeah.
It's your story. Tell it. Share as much of it as you're comfortable with sharing, and share some things that you're uncomfortable with, because at the end of the day, we want to live better, but in living better, we want all of those around us also to get the same experience or even more. That iron sharpens iron. As we become sharper, we want to have sharper people and things in our life. So sharing the experiences is really important. And I have one last question again in the closing. If you could go back in the years now, say this point before you walked into this situation of being incarcerated, what would you share with the young Saul about life? Now that you've been able to get to this point, now you're reflecting and going back, what would you share that would maybe be a great deterrent from Saul going the direction that he did?
Just to stay true to self, to first know self and stay true to self. Because because what led me astray was a lack of self-knowledge.
Yes.
And once I had self-knowledge, like, my direction was clear, and the blessings flow, going to that rhythm thing that you spoke about earlier. That rhythm
Yes.
becomes very apparent when you have self-knowledge. Know thyself, as the pyramid says.
Well, I received that, Brother Saul, and this is not the end of the story, because this is the beginning, because you're spilling the ink now, and there'll be more books and more words to be shared and to be created. I have no doubt about that, and I've appreciated you taking the time and sharing today. You definitely have broadened my perspective and horizons in life, and what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and the impact that it has on others. And I'm sure that my audience enjoyed this. And I ask that they please share the YouTube link with others, that ManXchange, that they can see us at 11 o'clock a.m. on Central Standard Time. And if they miss it, again, they can hear it at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on radio, Conversations Radio Network at conversationsradio.com. It's been a great audience. It's been a great time of communicating with you. I'm sure this is not the last time, and I hope that I can catch you and you can make more time where we can share more, and probably on a different subject matter platform, that you can enlighten those that don't know, that don't have knowledge of something, because we can be in isolated bubbles in our life and think that everybody has it like this, and if they don't, they should. But no effort, no results is one of my things that I speak and I preach and I teach it. You put forth the effort, you get results. You're proof that you went through a trial. You put forth the effort of what it takes to do the time, rehab yourself, come back and be a greater asset to society, community, and your family. So
Right
thank
on.
you very much. And audience, you have a great weekend, a great day, Mr. Saul. I appreciate you so much. And I'll say it over and over again. You have a great day, a great life.
You as
All
well,
right.
brother.
Thank you.
Be blessed.
You too.